else did you win?
And the next week was the New England Championship.
You won the New England, then you won the East Coast, then you won the Eastern USA. Now, the question, the more interesting thing is that this whole men's physique thing seems very natural to you. You almost seem as though you've been doing it for quite a while, and that's because you have some camera experience, because you've been modeling, you've been doing some commercial work. Tell me how you decided, you know what, I'm going to be a men's physique competitor. I think that's really the interesting story.
Well, I mean, I first started off actually as a IMBF guy a couple of years ago. So, my heart was really with bodybuilding, and my passion was with fitness. I tried fitness modeling. I was pretty successful freelance. I was really just like a natural behind the camera. But see, there wasn't really a market for not that, it was either the bodybuilder or you had to be basically some kind of like Calvin Klein model. There was nothing really in the middle. So once they came out with the physique category, it was great because now, they were looking for someone marketable. So I went from, not even being in view to almost being, like smack in the middle of the view just because, this, category was created, which is, gives everybody, an opportunity.
Now, let's talk about your training, because you train hardcore. Some people think men's physique, these guys don't train hard. You're like really, really focused on your training. You have set out in your mind what you're going to do prior to getting to the gym. You're very regimented. Talk to me about, because someone who trains as hard as you do, almost you would think bodybuilding. You want to go do bodybuilding. What's the distinction? Why not bodybuilding and why men's physique?
Bodybuilding, I didn't see a future for myself.
Okay, and that's important. I think that's 100%
yeah,
important.
I'm more as just like a more of a fitness advocate.
Well, you're very goal-oriented.
You
see things.
Yeah, I'm a motivator. I set out to just try to help everybody. Possibly with my image, with the help of my image. So I'm that's where I really wanted to go, and this is a perfect angle for me to achieve that.
Do you have to limit the amount of food you eat? Do you have to limit the amount of weight you do in the gym because of that?
I basically, I switched from, I'll do some CrossFit. I train over at CrossFit Revenge over in Levittown, actually. That's my CrossFit spot. They're really good. And all these different training methods that I actually use, they kind of keep me from actually getting too big, because I actually do have really good genetics. And, another, going back into diet, my diet is very, very restricted, but I'm used to it. I've been at basically, 3 to 6% for the past, 2.5 years, so I'm basically living this,
Well, you got to live it if you want to be the best, and you've had a good run. How do you feel confidence-wise going into the Nationals? Because down in South Beach, you're going to have the best of the best throughout the country. From the looks of it, you're going to probably have maybe 20 to 25 guys in your class. They're giving pro cards to the top 2 in each category, in each height category. Do you feel confident that you can come away with a pro card?
I want to say that I do feel really good, but it's a matter of what exact package the judges are looking for, and it could even vary from region to region. So I'm confident in my own performance. I'm not really nervous about the show. I'm nervous about basically, this is going to be the start of something huge for me if I do accomplish it. So it's kind of like a little bit of like a good future anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you have to have a focus all the time. If you don't, you're done. That's what I always say.
Yeah. So going into the show, I actually do feel pretty confident. I just want to take to tell you the truth, every second by second. You know what I mean? And
it's hard. It's hard to make a prediction because you don't want to jinx yourself. I understand the whole
exactly. I know. I don't want to discredit anybody out there. I don't want to try to come into the show thinking I'm going to kick everybody to the side, because it's all a performance of time too, basically. Like if you're on stage, you could have the best package, but if you don't present it with that 3 seconds that you're on the stage, you're the loser, even though you look the best.
How much time do you spend preparing for that 6 seconds on stage?
To tell you the truth, preparing for it, I try to almost keep a blank mind, to tell you the truth, before I go out. I'm usually, to tell you the truth, each time I was at a show, I was talking to Arnold right before I went out, really trying to go out there, completely clean slate mind, and then really just, I have some sort of, body movement that I normally run through with the camera. So, I just take that out there and I, just basically do my natural camera movement, while holding a certain muscle control and staying within the judges' standards that I've seen.
Okay, and that makes sense. You gotta constantly keep it on your mind what you're doing, and then I think practice is really what the important thing is, because once you practice enough, it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Even, going into bodybuilding, posing, stuff like that.
Now, your philosophy with regard to training is, which I found interesting, is that as people have been watching this back training video that you and Pete, the intern, were doing together, your philosophy is train heavy like a bodybuilder with, heavy weight initially, and then the second half of the workout is more very high repetition sets, drop sets. Tell me about how your philosophy is in regard to trying to incorporate both types of training, which usually you do one or the other. You're doing both.
Yeah, well, during this time period, I found, my training was, I was still able to have fun with it. I, set like a certain, guideline for when I was doing, I usually start out at a workout with, my first 2 heavy compound movements, and if I don't achieve a certain amount of reps, it's an automatic drop set. From there, I work on really, high volume, transferring into high volume, with a mixture of that, believe it or not, stretching, getting a good stretch on the muscle, and I really feel like that's helped, me able to go from day to day doing active recovery, because this has just been, just a mess. I've been sleeping like 18, 19 hours each Sunday after these shows just to try to, combat the week.
That's great. That you bring up a good point. Recovery, doing, for men's physique, it seems like there's a lot more, required in terms of the way you exercise. You probably do a lot more than a bodybuilder would say. So recovery is very important. What kind of supplements do you take for help with recovery, in addition to your sleeping as much as possible?
Well, actually, during, the training for all these competitions, one thing that I relied most on was actually like a greens product, a greens product that was engineered for athletes, because I feel, I was doing my research, and I just feel like, the earth, the phytochemicals and such, not only does that help with, natural health, but with, the removal of, toxins, waste, balancing of, the nitrogen balance in the body and stuff like that, making it more alkaline, just so, you could perform that much better. And I really feel like that's helped. And MCT oil, believe it or not.
You still like MCTs for extra energy?
I do, but I feel like it's also giving me what, a lot of people are saying, why is he winning? It's giving me a little bit of a fuller, rounder, softer look, but you know what I mean?
Now, how much MCT, are you using coconut oil, I assume, for MCTs?
I'm actually using, it's actually pretty cool, I'm using a butter-flavored MCT oil by Perillo that I just got my hands on after the New Hampshire show.
Mm-hmm. And how much of that are you using per day? How much extra fat are you putting in your diet?
I would say I try to maybe about 2 tablespoons a day, which comes out to about 28 grams of MCT. And they're at like 8.3 calories, per gram. So it's and it actually the MCTs don't require carnitine to be taken into the mitochondria, so it's carbohydrate sparing and protein sparing from there, obviously.
Well, that's why people use it, because it actually gets used for fuel quicker than carbohydrates do, because it does lack a transporter. It just goes right into the mitochondria and gets incinerated, essentially. Talk to me a little bit about, you got some, I'm watching you do some bicep curls. You got a really good set of biceps on you. Has this been a body part that's been pretty good for you? Pretty easy to train?
No, actually, Dave, believe it or not, biceps, well, my arms in general, I feel they lack my body. Now, not because, they're not aesthetic, they don't match the size. Even when I was a bodybuilder, I have a very big, full chest, a pretty big back, and, it does get thick when I was a little bit bigger. But my arms actually never matched. I couldn't get that size,
Interesting. Well, you got a big show coming up this weekend, the biggest of your career. Going into the show, I guess you could say, backstage sometimes can be very intimidating because you see all these guys, and I imagine it's not like bodybuilding, because in bodybuilding, if you're harder than a guy or if you're bigger than a guy, you know you can beat him. You say, all right, I got